What is up, nerd friends? Welcome back to the Nerd Bench, the much anticipated, long awaited XR10 Pro G3 and G3X comparison. We're going to pop these two guys open and take a look at them and talk about what their differences are. A very, very common question is, what's the difference in the X and the 3? And I'll just tell you right now, the color, the wire size, and the reverse voltage protection. What does that mean for performance? We'll dive into that right now. Let's pop these guys open and have a look here. You know, they always, the angels sing every time you open up new electronics. Double. And so both of them come with these replacement wire tabs. These guys can be used, so right now the wires are installed and going up. Some applications they like to solder the wires flat on here. So these are some option solder posts to make that a little bit easier. There they are. Side by side, the XR10 Pro G3X and the XR10 Pro G3, and as you can see, the main difference is the color. The X is gray in color, the standard is black in color, and also the wire sizes. This guy has 14 gauge wire in the standard G3, and the G3X has the larger 12 gauge power wire as well. They both have the same power cap, they both have the same, I guess you'd say, firmware or software settings. There's no differences there whatsoever. Externally, they both have the programming port, they have the external switch port, they have their normal on and off switch, fan all routes the same, the input wires for the receiver is the same, the sensor plug and the fan port on the bottom are the same, the fans are the same, everything's the same except for the color and the wire size externally. The other big performance difference that people talk about all the time is this one is marketed for stock class. They can both be used for stock or modified racing. There's not going to be like a night and day drastic difference in like one's going to feel broken or not work, whatever the case may be. They're both going to work fine for either application. The hardware difference between these guys, here it comes, folks. The X does not have the reverse voltage protection built into it, whereas the normal G3 does. What does that mean in the real world? Less safety, like a lot of things, is going to mean slightly better performance. And when I say slightly, I mean ever so slightly. To me, the difference in this guy is the wire size more than it is that reverse voltage protection. Now, I do know that a lot of folks don't care about safety. They want all-out performance. They want to split all the hairs there are to split, and that's why the X exists for racers like that are looking to pull out all the stops. They run all the same batteries. They can't plug their stuff in backwards, so they're not worried about any of that. But if you're like a lot of us and your wires are set up to fit multiple types of batteries, upside down, right side up, whatever the case may be, you bullet plug users know what I'm talking about. Longer wires are often the case, and I know tons of people are really scared to shorten their power wires because of whatever the case may be, so they make it long enough that the wires can get plugged in both directions, and that can be a day ruiner. So even though this has reverse voltage protection built into it, this is the G3 now, the power capacitor itself does not. So if you want to complete the reverse voltage protection package, you have to replace the power cap with a non-polarity capacitor. If you are to plug this in backwards before you replace that, this cap will pop, the speed control will be okay, so you can replace the capacitor and get back about your day, no problem. Another one that comes up all the time is Blinky Mode. On the newer generations of speed controls, you have to have 0 electronic timing advance whatsoever. That's turbo, boost, as well as softening. So you have to have all 3 of those set to 0 before the speed control is going to go into that quote-unquote Blinky Mode, if you will. That's a common one that comes up all of the time. Another one that we get asked all the time is, what's the new setting freewheeling all about? Freewheeling is something that came over from the airplane side of things, and it has to do with matching the RPM of the motor to the throttle position. Kind of like a very direct RPM matching, if you will. This allows the motor to decelerate at the same position that your throttle is at. So let's say you're running along at full throttle, you let off, the motor's going to want to coast at its own rate. Sometimes that RPM will be higher than what your trigger position is, sometimes it'll be lower than what that trigger position is. Freewheeling allows the speed control to match the RPM of the motor to the trigger position to give you a much more I guess you'd say organic deceleration, and on the throttle pickup side, it'll smooth things out a little bit because the RPM is matching the throttle. So if you're gonna be in a situation when you're not using a lot of drag brake, or maybe drag brake doesn't feel right to you because you have to get all the way to neutral so you feel like you're letting off too fast, freewheeling allows you to have some control over the deceleration of the motor as you move to neutral. That being said, a lot of times in a situation where you're going to be using freewheeling, you're going to want to turn off your drag brake. For the most part, that's how we start with these, is if we're going to run freewheeling, it's in a situation that we're not going to run any drag brake in. And freewheeling applies to kind of all forms of racing, whether it be off-road, on-road, spec class, or modified class. If you're not running a real high drag brake setup, freewheeling is something that you should definitely try. It helps everything kind of stay more in sync as far as throttle position and your motor RPMs go, and it can help the feel be quite a bit smoother and help with temperatures and the speed control on the motor as well. We are going to do a deep dive into all of the settings of the speed control, go by step, and show you the inner workings of all of this. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss that video. That'll be coming out real soon. In case you didn't know, we have a podcast. It's called RC Stuff, powered by Hobbywing. We give away free Hobbywing stuff each and every episode. All you have to do to find out how to enter to win is listen to an episode. Just look up RC Stuff, powered by Hobbywing on your favorite podcast service. Now, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns for us, shoot us an email, northamerica@hobbywing.com. And as always, folks, thanks for watching another episode of The Charlie Show, new every Tuesday right here on the Hobbywing official YouTube channel. We will see you all next time.